Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of January 13th, 2015. Roll call, please.
All 5 selectmen are present, as well as town council and town administrator.
Before we start our meeting, we're going to do a few things out of order. But the first thing I'd like to do is we lost one of our former selectmen this past Saturday. Bruce served the town for 6 years, 2 terms, and I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in his memory and best wishes to his wife, Rose. Thank you. For those of you who are interested, the funeral is tomorrow, I believe, at 10 o'clock at St. Patrick's, and I believe the burial service will be at St. Patrick's Cemetery at 11 o'clock.
All right. Next up, we have a special presentation, and I'd like to turn it over to
Town Administrator.
the town administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Dear Honorable Board, I am proud to announce that tonight we will appoint as the Wareham Chief of Police, Kevin D. Walsh. He's an over 30-year veteran of the Wareham Police Department, started as a seasonal officer, then promoted to full-time, a detective, sergeant, lieutenant, and now chief. He's a graduate of Wareham High School and a lifelong Wareham resident. I've worked closely with him over the last few years, not just when he served as interim chief. And I'll tell you, he is a fine representative of the department and this community. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm honored to ask that we start the swearing-in process.
Okay.
If everyone would rise, please, to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I state your name.
Kevin D. Walsh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the Chief of Police
of the Chief of Police
to which I have been appointed
to which I have been appointed
in accordance
in accordance
to Chapter 41,
to Chapter 41,
Section 97A.
Section 97A.
I will abide
I will abide
by the bylaws
by the bylaws
and the Charter of the Town of Wareham,
and the Charter of the Town of Wareham,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
I
I,
state your name, please.
Kevin D. Walsh,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say a few words. I'll be very, very brief. I sincerely thank everybody sitting in this room, everybody watching at home that supports me. And if you don't support me, I'll work on you. You will. I just want to say Almost 30 years ago, in the spring of 1985, I wore the uniform of the Wareham Police Department for the first time. I remember standing in the mirror, staring at the patch on my shoulder, and being so proud to be a police officer for the town of Wareham. As I stand before you tonight, that feeling of pride is overwhelming. Please know that I fully realize the awesome responsibility and importance associated with being the chief of police of the Wareham Police Department. All the citizens of Wareham can rest assured that I will hold true to my oath and always conduct myself and the operation of the department at the highest levels of integrity, honesty, and moral character, which is what all Wareham citizens deserve without question. I'd like to assure the people of Wareham the foundation of their police department is strong and is ready to face any situation or challenge. The men and women of the Wareham Police Department are a dedicated team of highly trained professionals with whom I'm so proud to stand with on a daily basis. I believe leaders are made from a composite of acquired traits, a family support system, and personal influences during various times in their life. I've always told my son that every teacher and every coach has something to add that makes you a better person at whatever you do. I've been very fortunate to have elements from my family, from my friends, and from professional influences that have created the leadership composite of my leadership traits. From the first leader in my life, my mother, who raised 2 kids in Naniman Heights and Onset on the salary of a waitress, to Brett Jordan, who's here tonight, my Wareham High School football coach, who realized I was having a tough time, put his hand on my shoulder and told me everything would work out, to leaders at the police department of all ranks through my 30-year career, up to a leader named Rick Stanley, who had unwavering faith in my abilities and potential. I believe the composite of leadership I've acquired is ready for the position of only the 8th permanent chief in the history of the Wareham Police Department. In closing, I'd like to sincerely thank every member of the Board of Selectmen, our town administrator, Derek Sullivan, for their constant and continued support and confidence. I'm very proud to be a member of a town leadership team that's moving forward with the best intentions of Wareham and all of its good citizens. Thank you very, very much.
That was a championship. I don't know if she plays when I said.
So Dave and Will will do the first thing.
What do you-
All right, so we're gonna
Guys,
skip announcements
why don't you
and stuff
stand in
for
front
right
of
now.
something nice looking, as opposed to us? No, like, a nice picture over there, you know?
Skip them out. We'll get more done than go back.
Well, then we'll move. Then stand back here.
Okay, yeah, come on. Come on, we can move this.
You can have one for his office, one for the house, how's that?
The object that's the issue.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We do actually, it's house there.
That would be a good picture to take.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Not here.
Okay, we still have more to
There you go.
put up.
Do you mind taking photos for the press?
Oh, yeah, pleasure to do that. Would you like to come up front?
Pleasure, we'll come out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, except you blot out the sun down.
He's staring at that.
Derek, you know the touch-up?
Should have worn my tie tonight.
Yeah, really, thanks for watching.
Somebody on the other side, too.
Yeah, let's balance it out.
Yeah, somebody on the other side.
Somebody's gotta go on the other side.
Some balance line, they just run it all the time.
Which one's, yeah, exactly.
Suck it in, I gotta get by.
Yes, Sally.
It's a former coach, that's right?
Okay, now you've ruined my language.
Where they finish up.
You know what, maybe we should give him like 5 minutes.
What?
He's outside, everybody, we'll just say we'll give him 5 minutes, and that way it'll give a cutoff period. You know?
Let's see if they're all gonna get up here. We'll just let them
Because it's gonna take a while for this to all take place.
You're aiming at me.
I know, it looked awful.
Look at town council's over there going like this.
What?
You missed it.
You missed it, and it's
What?
probably a good thing.
What was it? You never do.
Are you ready? All right, looks good. Okay?
All right, we're gonna continue the meeting. We're gonna go again a little bit out of order. Mr. Moore, we're gonna bring you up first so you can go back home.
Thank you.
You have to speak right into the microphones, okay? And I mean like inches from your face, okay?
Yes, my name's David Moore. I'm your acting building commissioner. And back in December, I had a resident challenge one of the fees that we assess for a building permit. Now, it's my understanding that we had been using this policy for about 2 years, where the permit fee for a new dwelling includes a fee for the basement along with the living space in the house. And in this case, the fee for the basement is charged at the same rate as the fees for the living space. And the person has questioned as to whether this is proper or not. Whether the basement requires as much inspection and oversight and so forth as the remaining living space in the house.
In your opinion?
My opinion, Some basements, yes. Other basements, no. Some basements that are on maybe questionable soils, where you have to keep a close eye on drainage, a hole inspection before the footings go in, might be some steel reinforcing that goes in. There could be almost as much inspection as inspecting the first floor living space and second floor and so forth of the house.
My question would be then, how can we say, basically go to a different rate on the basement if it's possibility it could be either or, because you have a gray area now? I mean,
Well,
how do you
the-
make
the-
that decision?
It's a tough one because not every basement is that complicated. Some of them are very straightforward and they don't require all that extra oversight. There'll be very little, few jogs, very little steel, might be great drainage and so forth. So in some ways, I can understand the person's concern. But it's something that we've been doing for the last year and a half. We've been doing it since that time period, and I think the town would be in a tough spot to say, as of tomorrow, you don't have to pay a full fee for a building permit for the basement. And what do you do with the people over the last 2 years? You've been charging them the full square footage. I think it would be an awkward position for the town.
Is this something where you have in your rules and regulations that you can make an adjustment on the fee?
I believe the fees are set by the Board of Selectmen. We
We have
recommend to the
set,
board.
but do you have the ability to make, like, we'll call it an abatement, but it really isn't an abatement?
No, there's no means, we have no means of making an abatement.
So what I'm understanding is we really don't have any ability really to change the rate, because it could be as expensive or more than the regular living space.
Right.
From the board, Peter?
Well, Mr. Chairman, in looking at the comps that were submitted by Mr. Moore, I see that there's at least one municipality out there that's charging more per square feet than we are.
Yes.
We seem to be right in, out of what was provided, we seem to be more or less in the middle of, Rochester's 40, Raynham's 60, we're 50. The difficulty here is, as you say, and this was what I was going to ask, and I'm glad the chairman brought this out, is that some basements do require quite a bit of inspection, especially in a coastal town where we're dealing with the coastal development issues, where you've got the tougher building standards. I know using structural steel in homes now, 6-inch walls, everything else has become the regular means of building in velocity zones. And while I can understand why a resident might say, well, this particular area of my house is not taxed or it's not assessed at the same rate as the rest of my house, it's not a living area, as you say, the flip side is it still requires significant inspection in enough of these that I don't really see any reason to change this.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I would agree with Mr. Titlebaum's comments, and thank you for bringing this to us.
Mr. Holmes?
My comment is that we seem to be using the word basement. And I believe we're talking about the foundation of the building. Are you making a distinction between the two?
Yes, I am. If it was a house built on a slab or with no usable space for living space or whatever, you couldn't finish it off in any way later on down the road, then I would call that a foundation. Now, we're talking about a full basement. 6.5, 7-foot walls, 8-foot walls.
See, in my mind, that's the basement is the foundation that the house is built on.
Yes, it is.
So I
But-
don't see any difference
Well,
between
you
a
could
bas-
say,
I would think that if you're going to build a house, especially near the water, that the foundation would require more inspection because you're going to put a house on top of this and it's going down in as opposed to a slab,
any foundation goes in at least 4 feet.
right?
Right.
And that's a very important part of the house. That's
Yes.
going to, right?
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
I agree with the previous two members. I don't see any need to change that. I think that that's the most important piece. If you don't inspect that often enough and make sure it's right, you're going to have an issue with the structure
Okay,
over time.
thank you. Peter?
Okay, so normally, I'm not a big fee guy, and, I'm always the odd man out here. But in this particular case, and I've
Taxes?
done this in many times, in many communities, and I think more than not charge the same rate for the basement level as they do for any other level in the house. So I don't see any reason to change it either.
I would ask, just to clarify this, make a motion to affirm that we're going to continue where we're at.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside.
Question.
Questions? Go ahead.
I question the motion.
We're just,
If we have a policy in place,
we're just reaffirming the
He is-
policy that we're considering the basement at the same rate. There was a
That-
question,
there's a policy already in place.
it's already there as
Correct.
a fee, but we're just going to affirm.
It's just an
it.
affirmatory vote, it's not a change.
It's not a change.
That's why I'm questioning why you need a vote.
Just to affirm that we've agreed, we've discussed it and agreed it, because we've had someone complain on it. Any other questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you very much, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out at night.
Okay, so if you look at your agenda, next up is supposed to be the Board of Health agent. Unfortunately, he's ill and can't be here. So, moving that, we're gonna, you wanna do a couple of these first? Or you wanna go back up to announcements? All right. All right, then we're gonna go back to announcements. Mr. Titlebaum.
Nothing to announce.
Ms. Whiteside?
No, I just want to remind people that black ice is deadly, and there was a lot of it this morning. Be really careful on the road.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just jump in, the ice thing reminds me, we've got a lot of salt ice out there, saltwater ice. Don't walk on it, it's very dangerous. Even if it looks like it's a foot thick, the currents, the tides shift it, they fracture it underneath so you can't see it. It's very easy to step in a crack, get stuck under the ice and not come back except frozen. You don't want that.
Mr. Holmes? All right, I have two. The Zoning Board of Appeals is looking for a full member and an associate member to serve, so come on, step up and join that board, and let's see if we can have some more participation. Onset Bay Association cordially invites you to its annual meeting, volunteers recognition and membership drive kickoff, Thursday, January 22nd, 6:30 to 9 p.m. at Salerno's Function Hall in Onset. Complimentary hors d'oeuvres, a cash bar. Boy, I'm just stumbling all over these words tonight. Donation, $10 gladly accepted. RSVP to 508-295-7027 or onsetvillage@yahoo.com. The guest speaker is Jackson Gilman. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Your turn.
Oops. With the Wareham Historical Society, I don't have a note from them, but I know they'll have an event on Monday, one of their usual monthly meetings. It should be up on their website as well. Also, Mr. White is having his usual Thursday event at the Agawam, and unfortunately, I'm the guest. And that's all I got.
All right, next up,
Yes.
Is that a show that they're doing?
a show? I don't think so.
No.
Is he studying in the library?
No, it's just,
with the kids?
it's
He
just-
probably is doing something there.
He does something, but
He
it's,
just like storytelling and
yeah,
music and he's
Probably.
very good.
all right,
Show us the cover, Chad.
$10.
$10.
We'll see you there.
Greatly appreciated, $10.
Yes.
All right, so next up would be citizens' participation. Is there anybody here to speak to us this evening? Yes, ma'am, come on down. She can make her, when she gets here, she can. Sit down and please give us your name and so on, please.
I'm Jonna Frederickson. I'm a resident of Wareham. This is Rose Roostum, and she is a library volunteer and would like to speak to you today about the library.
Do I just read this?
Yes, you can. Okay. She wrote something.
The Wareham Free Library is important, not in a general sense, but to me specifically. I have been going there since I moved to Wareham at 6 months old. It's part of my history. Librarians watched me grow up, and one day I walked in to find only 2 of them left. I've been volunteering there since 3rd grade. I was going there to volunteer one Saturday morning, and I had arrived early. There was a family sitting on the bench in front of the library waiting for it to open, and I don't know how long they'd been there, but they had brought blankets, and one of the children was asleep. And it reminded me how important the library is, and I guess how much people care about it, and just how overall necessary it is. And it's affected me, and it seems to affect other people, so yeah. Is that enough?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you for coming and
Could you
expressing your
spell your
feelings.
last name for the record, please?
Rustom, Roustom.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on. All right, so next, we had the Board of Health coming in. They're not, and the contract with WCTV isn't coming up tonight either. So next, we're going to move up to the Wareham Veterans Council discussion.
Just as a note, those two things were postponed, will be on next week's agenda. One person is out sick, and they had a conflict with an actual board meeting, and they'll both be here next week.
Mr. Chairman, is Mr. White coming out here for this?
Yes.
Mr. White? You got like an electronic control to flip cameras and stuff, or?
No, he's just gonna focus on himself, and that's it, hopefully.
We're just making sure that the board is the only one on the...
You know how to use the microphone, right?
I'll try. I'm Bob White. I sent all of you, I think, an electronic summary of my thoughts on the Veterans Council. I don't know whether you've had a chance to read it or not, but basically my position is that the Veterans Council has consisted of a number of elder citizens in the town, 3 of which passed away in the last year. Francis Carmichael, Jim Newman, who you all know from many appearances here, as well as Charles Vanderstay. They were key members to that group. The remaining members are equally experienced and kind of in an inverse relationship to their energy level, which means the Veterans Council is going to wither unless the board reaffirms its commitment to it and begins to appoint new people to that committee. I'm unsure as to what the authority and the origin of the Veterans Council, where it came from, who's had the responsibility for appointing members or whatever. I think it began to operate so informally that if one showed up at a meeting or two, they'd be accepted as part of the group. I don't know that it was held to a formal accountability as as other committees are. But in any case, I'm looking for clarification. I've got an application to be appointed to that committee if it turns out to be the will of this group, because the committee I've headed with Sharon Boyer in the last 4 years has only worked as agents for that group. But now that group is almost ceasing to exist.
Yeah, we've all passed away. I've spent a little bit of time when you first brought it up. I got the first email. I had concerns about how it basically originated and how it's been maintained, because I can't find anything in our charter, I can't find anything in our bylaws. I was trying to go through the selectmen's, meetings records and stuff to see if anywhere in history. I've got calls into a couple people who go back into the 70s that are still with us asking questions. Walter Roby is one, Phyllis McGraw. I'm trying to get some answers. We also have to go and research with the Legion and the VFW to see what's happened there, because unfortunately in the last year, I think we lost three of the key members of the group anyways. I know we had Memorial Day services and stuff, and the Veterans Day stuff. It's really sad to see the town of Wareham having so little participation, and I hate to see these things disappear, because it really is not fair. These people spent a lot of time, and everything we have today is the basis of what they did for us a long time ago. So we need to figure out how to do it. We need to figure out whether or not we have to work with the Veterans Agency as well, which is the federal government, and see whether it's somehow it logs in. But I can't find a link right now. We have to find that because we need to get that back and resuscitated. So what I'm going to do is put this on the agenda probably within 3 or 4 weeks again, and you and I and anybody else on the board will try and work on it, Mrs. Whiteside, and we'll see if we can find out how it originates. And if we can't find out, then we're going to make it a Selectmen's Committee. Simple as that.
Memorial Day will be fast approaching. And
We'll do this as quick as we can, Bob, because you guys put a lot of work in, you and Sharon, and I don't expect you guys to carry this on your own again. It's just not fair. Mr. Holmes.
I think in my memory, when we were doing the committee business, remember when we set up the policies? I'm asking you because you're always here.
Well, I'm not sure.
So I know you don't remember. But there were two, as I recall, there were two issues. One was the veterans agent, which is different than the veterans council.
Absolutely.
And I believe that the Veterans Council was treated, in terms of the board, we appointed every third Tuesday of the month anyone who, you had to have an application, just like the other boards and committees as far as I can remember, Bob, except for the agent. That was totally different. I don't think you need to have the federal government involved for the Veterans Board.
I went through everything upstairs in the Selectmen's office.
Yeah.
We don't have a folder for Veterans Council.
We don't?
We have nothing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Town council trying to get your attention, you might have found the answer.
Okay, thank you. Rich, glad to have you help, because we don't have anything.
Oh.
That's why I'm concerned.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I will just read to you the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 115, Section 12, very quickly. In each city and in each town not included in a veterans district, there may be in the Department of Veteran Services an unpaid advisory board to be appointed in towns by the Board of Selectmen. Such advisory board shall render such assistance to the Director of Veteran Services of the municipality as the director may request. The Commissioner of Veterans Affairs is hereby authorized to direct and formulate and publish rules and regulations establishing in a general manner the types of persons with respect to their occupations, professions, and special skills who may be appointed to such unpaid advisory boards. Every such advisory board shall consist of not less than 5 nor more than 15 residents of the town.
Right. Now, if I could just take my question back. Jim Newman, was he on more than one, or was he just on the veterans?
I believe it's
Was he also on the disabilities?
On the disabilities.
Okay, so I think that's where the ruckus was when he was sick, was the disabilities committee. I don't think it was the veterans committee. So,
we have
yeah.
Disabilities Committee.
But I seem to recall it being the same process, not dealing with the agents aside, but that board. I actually thought you and, I thought you guys were on the committee.
No, we act as agents. for
Nothing
that.
formal then?
No,
Okay.
nothing formal.
Agents.
And in fact, I've been attending the meetings for a good long time, and I can't remember anybody being appointed to the Veterans Council.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd suggest that you put it on the agenda for next week to appoint the committee.
We can do that.
If we have to do something official, do it next week on the agenda.
We can start that, and we can also start the process of contacting, under Mass General Law, who we have to contact to get some guidelines to make sure we're current what we're going to do.
And who is the new veterans agent?
James Crockett is a part-time veterans agent in town. James
again.
Crockett.
James Crockett.
Crockett. His supervisor is Ed Merrigan in the Hyannis office. And town council, there's a word in that first sentence that said, of section 12, which says, each town not included in a district.
Right.
We may be included in a district?
Yes, we are.
In
We are.
In which case, maybe this doesn't apply to us.
Yeah, with your permission, Mr. Chairman. If we are in a quote-unquote veterans district, and the veterans agent will be the one who'll be able to tell us that, then 115, Section 12 would not apply. Now, it wouldn't stop you from having a veterans council appointed by this board It just wouldn't be a statutory one, that's all.
Okay.
Be a board, another board, Mr. Chairman, would be another
Exactly.
board-created committee?
Exactly.
Okay.
Mrs. Whiteside, sorry.
That's fine.
No,
I actually talked with the gentleman on the Cape about 2 years ago and found out that, yes, we do belong to the district, and that's why there has been a part-time agent here for a while. My memory goes back a little bit further than some of you, only because I'm older. But we've had a veterans agent and a council in this town for way back when. And I, for one, am not going to live in a town that does not honor the individuals who have served this country. I just, it has bothered me. It bothers me every time we bury one of them. I was talking with Mr. Teitelbaum today, and someplace we heard that there were 1,800 veterans in this town. Neither one of us can remember where we heard that number. But if there are 1,800 veterans, they're not all aged. I mean, there are kids graduating from the high school who go directly into the service. Whether they come out in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or 30, those people have in fact served the town of Wareham and their country. So I have a folder at home. It's this thick. I've done all of the homework and could have answered most of your questions.
Why don't we do this then on Thursday when town council is in? Let's just flush it out, and we'll have a meeting on the following Tuesday, and we get going on this.
That would be
If that works
Thursday
for
afternoon.
everybody. Thursday afternoon. That works for everybody?
And that's correct. We do belong to the district. We're assessed a fee for just under $24,000
Right.
there annually, so.
Great. All right.
Thank you for
But
your
that's
time.
different,
Thank you for
Mr.
bringing it
Chairman,
up.
I think, to try to put the button on it. That's different than what we're talking about. The district doesn't provide for the work that people that do on the Veterans Day parades. They don't provide for the town representation of, it's a bad word, representation, okay, of supporting our veterans and things like that in the town of Wareham. That's two totally separate issues, correct?
We're going to be appointing.
Well, one is primarily organized around benefits and advising the,
That's correct. That's the agent side
that's the
and the
agent side.
district side.
And the council can agree in part of its mission, as you might have assigned it, to emphasize patriotic events in town or to take on other programs in town which have nothing to do particularly with the benefit side.
Right.
And
And that's the board,
That's
That's what
the council we're talking about here.
Council.
right?
Yes, council.
No?
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes, you're right.
Ah.
The young woman who has played at every Memorial Day service was the granddaughter of Charlie Vanderstay. I think it's incumbent upon us, because this younger generation has in fact joined in, to continue. I'm adamant about this. Sorry.
Bob, if you're available on Thursday
In the afternoon.
afternoon, check
After
with
the
Mr.
coffee hour.
Sullivan, find out what the time frame is.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Next up is discussion and possible vote on policy 0801.
That's yours.
It is mine. All right, so I've perused this thing about 1,000 times, and I thought about maybe a specific list of employees that, you know, had different things, but you know what? I think I've kind of decided that our town administrator is a pretty qualified guy. And he really has his heart in the right place. And I know that if I went to him and said something about a specific thing, he'd take it to heart like he always does. And he puts it into whatever he's working on, just like any of us when we speak to him. We get that kind of response from him, and he's been extremely good at that. So I move that we reaffirm policy 0801.
You want to reaffirm or just no change?
No, it's no change. We're just reaffirming it as it stands.
Okay,
Okay?
if you want. you want to have a second? I don't know if you have to do it, because the other policies we didn't make any change.
Well, we
just-
need to vote on this one specifically because it requires us to vote once a year in an entirety, and it requires 100%
Okay,
vote.
just, we're going to reaffirm.
Because it's a charter issue.
The motion is to reaffirm policy
Correct.
0801.
Do we have
need
to-
all 5 votes.
Do we have a copy of policy 0801 available to just read into the record?
From
Yes,
last year.
he has it
Um,
right here, the current
The
Well,
one.
we don't
original.
need to
Yes.
read it into the record. It's the same policy. Hasn't changed. It's in all our books.
Everybody should have a copy. It's been in
Right,
the
I understand
package
that,
for a
I just wanted to get it out to the public as to what we were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's here. It's been in there for a long time. We're
You
just
can read the
reaffirming
title.
it
Just read the
because it
title of
requires us. It says procedure for filling positions of town employees, policy 0801.
while. Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any other questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you.
Okay, moving
I
on.
was on there for a long time.
Any other town business not reasonably anticipated in the last 48 hours, Mr. Titlebaum?
None.
Ms. Whiteside?
No, thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
No.
Myself, no. Mr.
No.
Chairman? No. Okay, let's see what we got here. Approval of minutes and so on. Let's see.
No bills, no documents, right?
Approval of regular minutes of November 25th, 2014.
Move as presented.
All right, do I hear, okay?
I was there in that one.
I second it. She moved it, so.
Motion by Mr. Whiteside, second by Ms. Tropiano. Can you check to see if I was there or not that day?
I'll tell you who was there if you want to know.
All
Yes, I
people were
was
there.
I think
Okay.
everybody was.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed,
after
abstained?
7:03.
Okay, I move approval of the December 19th regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting, and present
Mr. Titlebaum will abstain.
was not, Mr. Titlebaum was not here.
Nice.
December 9th, not 19th.
I'm sorry, December 9th.
I move that we accept the minutes of December 9th, 2014 as presented.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by
Second.
Mr. Tropiano. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 401.
Okay,
Mr. Holmes was absent for the December 16th meeting.
I move.
That was the December 9th meeting.
Yes,
uh,
now we're doing the December
we're
16th
moving-
meeting.
That's right. I move approval of December 16th regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
Aye.
Okay,
401.
in the last meeting,
Everybody.
let's just, I think
Should be
everybody was there.
Exec session, too.
Yeah, everybody was there?
Okay.
Okay, I move we
Yes, what's-
approve the
Come
minutes
see it.
of January 6, 2015.
Second.
Any questions? None heard? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? 500.
Okay, and last, I move we approve the executive session minutes and hold for January 6, 2015.
Second.
Motion by Mr.
Question.
Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside.
Question.
All were
Question,
present.
go ahead.
Would you ask the clerk to update this? I was not at the, I was absent for the executive.
Yes, it was
Yeah, you were.
Mr. Slavin, myself, all four. You were the only one missing, right?
Right.
That's right.
Okay. No
And
questions?
according to this, you weren't there, so.
Yeah. All in
Huh?
favor?
Well-
You weren't listed on that one.
Yeah, on the poll vote, you weren't listed.
Roll call vote. Stephen O.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I
okay.
should have
All
said
right, just
absent
take it
because
off,
it says
please.
right
All right,
there.
and
Just
I'll-
cross it out.
We'll remove him at the
That's all.
top.
The
pretty easy
minutes
to-
will be corrected.
I mean,
Minutes as corrected?
Yes.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Tropiano, second Mrs. Whiteside. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 401.
Okay, and we have an invoice for Attorney Richard Bowen in the amount of $15,000. Move approval.
Second.
Any questions? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Next up is the
One
town.
one
Mrs.
question,
Whiteside?
please.
Yeah.
Was that in our packet?
No.
I know it was last week and you wouldn't let us pay it because we didn't have the numbers out, but I don't seem to have a copy of it. So,
Patrick, do you
let
have a
me ask
copy
the
of it?
question, please.
No.
I don't have a copy of it.
Did you submit your hours, sir? Thank you.
Any other question? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
Next.
5-0-0.
Next up, Town Administrator's Report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So a quick update. A politician stayed true to a campaign promise. Governor Baker has released the $100 million in Chapter 90 funds that had been held back, which has been held back for the last few years. These funds are used to maintain the town's public ways. Wareham's portion of this increase will be $363,034.
Oh, that's great.
Most of this
Support our
year's
governor here.
Yes, we do.
Most of this year's Chapter 90 money, if you've seen it, went to 12th Street and Onset.
Yep.
So this will allow us to do more another project, not of that magnitude, but smaller. And we desperately need those funds just to maintain our roads, and could use 10 times that. But we
Is he a
appreciate it.
Republican?
Yes.
Oh, great.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Go ahead.
through you. Mr. Sullivan, is there in the past, I know we've had meetings and people come in and we're going to do this project and that project. Is there some way that you could do this a little differently going into the future, in that if you're going to take that money and you're going to do roads, either have the superintendent come in and explain what these projects are before they do them? So
We
in a
could-
way that we could
yeah,
know
most of
that.
those projects have been on the books for about 5-6 years. But as
I'm
they
not
come,
asking you about the backlog, I'm asking
Yeah.
you, before you spend that money, could somebody come in and just say, okay, this is the portion of the list we're gonna take care of now?
yeah, absolutely. I
Could we
think
do
that'd be
that,
great to
please?
inform the public. Absolutely. Thank you.
We can do
Yeah,
that.
I'm saying
Thank
yes.
you.
We can do that through capital planning, but I believe capital planning has.
Well, the town
In the-
administrator could just
No,
talk
but-
to us here,
No,
that's
but-
fine.
But I'm just saying, that you can actually, if you want, we can put it up on the town website, all
Sure.
the projects listed and where they are, and then they make the decision as the money comes down. Because that $300,000 they're gonna release to us, because it's so late in the year, you can't really contract out projects till next year. Because obviously the asphalt plants are all closed at this time of year.
Right.
So that's been the problem, is the state doesn't allow us to go out and borrow on anticipated funds. So until they actually release the money, and if they wait till August or September, which they've done before, it puts us another year behind it constantly. So we're 4 or 5 years behind on some projects. Thank you.
And I think that,
Spring
just to
anyway.
finish that thought, and the reason I'm asking for that, it's pretty specific. The reason I'm asking for that is there tends to be a lot of citizens, taxpayers, who believe that they're on this list. And when the town goes out and does these projects, and they're still sitting there looking at dirt, or they're looking at bad tar, or they're looking at potholes, they jump up and down screaming, but I'm on the list, right? So that's why I'd like to see that list and have you come in, or Mr. Superintendent come in and just tell us, what portions of the list you're taking care of, what projects are we doing before we do it, so that we don't have to deal with that backlash, right? I mean, that seems fair enough.
Let everyone know who's getting into the club.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to point one thing out. I want everybody to realize, Mr. Holmes just mentioned unpaved roads and so on. There is no unpaved roads going to be fixed by this, because they are probably not accepted ways. And if it's not an accepted way, you cannot use Chapter 90 money on the road repair. Has to be an accepted way.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Just to that point, they're rare, but they're out there. I know that I'm on the tarred portion of Oak Terrace. The opposite portion that, loops around behind the little forest piece there is actually a public way, but yet it's been dirt since God was a boy. So there are those quirky little exceptions out there that theoretically could. So once again, in Wareham, nothing is simple. Just because you live on a dirt road does not 100% mean that it's not a public way. It's unlikely there's a public way.
That falls on that list,
So,
and it's a town road.
but for the most part, you're correct. There are very few, but there's still the outlier out there.
I'm just asking for some simple communication
We can do it easy.
so that citizens know what's going to be done, what's, right?
Pretty
That's all. So it
few and
was a
far
simple
between,
request.
that's for sure.
Because you asked, absolutely.
Mrs. Whiteside? Oh, I thought you had a comment. Never mind. Go ahead, Derek.
No. Well, this is, we had, if you will, the pomp and circumstance earlier. I would ask that we voted in executive session for the chief's contract, that we do have it officially on the record now in open session to vote for the contract. I know it's a little bit after, but probably wasn't the right thing to do when we had everybody waiting. So I'm
So
asking
moved.
that we
Second.
just.
Motion by Mr. Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you.
It's really official now.
Yes, it is.
And I have no other good news, so I will stop there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Again, we're at that time where we need some financial statements and revenue statements to get us caught up, so we know where we're at.
Questions?
Go ahead.
I think Mrs. Whiteside had a question
No.
before you.
Also.
Mr. Sullivan, I read a story in the newspaper this week about the parking in Onset. Did you happen to see that story about Cedar?
I did,
The
yes.
article presented it as if Cedar was managing town property. That's not Cedar property, is it?
No, that's town property.
It's town property.
Correct.
So can you tell us the facts on this?
Yes,
the
we've
facts
asked
are.
for, one of the items we've been looking at to help Onset upgrade the area as well is the Heinz Field.
Right.
And CETA, in doing their grants for the future, you need to, in a preliminary manner, put in information. And that's what we've done, to see if we can get that in as part of the grant. So there'll be some information, and it's really just the basis. And when Mr. Pina was speaking, I spoke to him afterwards, that's as to what sort of parking is going to be there, or how we decide to manage the parking. That's not CETA's, that wouldn't be CETA's
Thank you for that
decision.
clarification.
It wasn't clear in the newspaper.
It wasn't very clear. As a matter of fact, it was just the opposite.
I know. It came out the
Yeah.
opposite of what he
And
actually
my
said.
phone was ringing quite a
Yeah.
bit, as you can
I
imagine.
can imagine.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up, liaison reports, Mr. Titlebaum.
None.
Ms. Whiteside.
No, but next week I'll have a whole lot of them.
Mr. Holmes.
Good, I'll be sick next week. No, I'm all set.
I'm all set.
Just the planning board met, there was nothing special up. Just everybody knows, I went through the Walmart building this past Thursday, I believe it was. They done kind of an amazing job of how they construct and where they're at. It looks as if they're looking at the May 1st date as a pretty solid date. When I was in there, I was looking at what is, to me, is like a storage trailer that you normally see, and it's actually their whole electrical system, computer basic system which generates everything back to Bentonville. The whole operation is run by Bentonville. They have no controls of anything in the building here. And they just basically take the top of the trailer, rip the ceilings out, and it's locked in place, and it's all prefab. I've never seen anything like it before. And the heating and the refrigeration systems, the amount of concrete poured on the floor, it's a very impressive project. It's moving along very
You're
well.
talking about the new one?
The new one. And the old one, I can only tell you, because that's all I know, is that they have somebody that's basically under contract for the old building. They're doing specifications of work. They won't tell us who it is, even though I keep asking. But there is actually someone interested and has actually contracted with it. So I'll let you know once we know
Oh,
what's
that's
going on there.
good news.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's funny because I got the same tour. I got to go through the
Yeah,
building
it's
and
quite
see the
nice.
sites, and I'll tell you, you know, if you wanted to exercise, you'd take 10 products on each side of that building, like one here, and you go get that one, and then you go to the other side, then you go back to the other side. I think you'd go like a mile.
It's a huge building.
It's a huge building. I mean, it's gigantic. The only thing I don't like is it's pretty ugly.
It's
pretty ugly. Those,
It's a- it's a
you know
big
those
box
two
store.
things in the front?
That's
That's what they call the eyebrows.
Those
Did you know
eyebrows.
that? And it is, I'm telling you,
Walmart,
it's
yeah.
one step behind Brown's Package Store. The old Brown's Package Store,
You're killing me.
which I think was just an awful building.
You are killing
But,
me.
you know, what do I know?
It's a big box store. What do you
It's a
expect?
big box store, but it's ugly.
least
But
it has
the
the
truth
eyebrows
is,
on it.
and I think it'll serve their purpose, obviously, it's gigantic. They have some great stuff inside for, you know, maintaining things and The walk-in coolers are
Yeah.
gorgeous. The layout for all the freezers and everything, it's just really done nicely
Yeah,
inside.
it's professionally done.
Yeah.
They have a really good guy running the project there.
Yeah, I met him, yeah.
Nice
guy.
people. And also, just so you know, the project in front on Route 28 is moving along. There's one restaurant. Basically, I think they're just about ready to go. And also on the other side, obviously in Rosebrook there, we have the pad of 3 buildings, and one is in. We should be getting announcements fairly soon for the next round of buildings there as well. And it's all looking good. And I hope everybody appreciates the hard work everybody in this town's involved to get things moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Good night, Wareham.